Well, truthers, this is Peter Cola. You may have seen me on Nicholas Van Anman, on Nino Rodriguez, or even on Minister Pryme, Prime Minister. I have been on a few shows. I'm soon to be on with Charlie as well. For those who have seen me for the first time, my name is Peter Cola. I am a practicing medical professional. I have been practicing for 35 years. I still treat people. I'm a physical therapist, but I also have owned my own practice, evaluated and treated thousands of patients, people. I have started programs for all across the state of Arizona, and supervised and trained hundreds of other practicing therapists and even some nurses. My claim to fame, if you want to call it that, or my little niche, is the fact that I have put mind, body, and spiritual practice into the healthcare scenario, not just treating symptoms any longer, but treating to the causes, treating the whole person, almost a holistic view, an expanded holistic view, not just the whole body, but the whole mind and spirit when treating. And by doing so, I have noticed and have had revealed to me by God that it is a godly form of treatment, which basically allows a person to then encompass and claim healing. Okay, I've written about that in 2 books. We still treat, but we with our ever and daily fight with the insurance industries, we find it more and more difficult to get the insurance to pay for our treatments of people. So we end up having to treat for free a lot of times. And I've written a couple books. The first book is a tabulation of 10 years of treating, and it was called Heal Yourself for God's Sake. Let's see if I can turn it. There you go. So you can see what it looks like, available at Amazon. I have put in a lot of experiences. I have put a lot of case studies and what has happened in various parts of the treatment procedure when you add various truths of God, what effect it had on patients. I tabulated, I wrote it down, and I put it in the book. And then the second book I wrote was, how does it work? God explained it to me. Now, when I don't understand something, as you will come to know if you watch my videos, I often use you know not because you ask not. So I'm asking, why? And he tells me. He tells me in science. He tells me in symbols. He tells me in people that show up in my life. He tells me in all kinds of different things. I write it down. And I put those, how it works on a quantum level, what effect it has on us, on our healing, AKA our ascension. I wrote it down. This book is also available on Amazon. Those 2 books have a lot of the information that I teach about. They also are kind of the way we fund these videos, this information that I'm spreading, that I give to people. Freely has been given to me, freely I give to others. You can download those books for free off our website at gemsofhealthandwellness.com. The link will be below. But you can also order them on Amazon. It really helps us. We also have a GoFundMe because we want to open our office again so that we can start treating people, even people who can't afford to come. We will treat them anyways and allow them to pay whatever they can. That's what we do. And you can also write me directly, and you can buy the book directly from me. And then I'll send you an autographed copy instead of having to order it from Amazon. That's only available in the United States because it's too expensive to send overseas. Unless you really want one and you're willing to pay the extra shipping, then I will send you one as well, signed. Now, today's video, in honor of our great president who has stepped into the fray again and with his rallies, I'm calling this video today, Welcome to the End Game. I need a fighter. Go in for me. Or at least get into the end game. You could also call it that. I'm going to start right in. Truthers, people who have been blessed with seeing the truth in these such revelation times. That's you, my friend. That's me. We finally got to see the truths. These seemingly spiritual leaders of our time that are speaking these truths out. They seem spiritual because they are talking about spiritual things. Ascension, end times, revelations, anointings, all of these different things. Are we talking about angels? Are we talking about aliens? Are we talking about cosmic rays, forces? Hey, it's all open to the interpretation. Let's start interpreting. Let's start looking. These who must circumvent the perilous waters of the enemy fire in this frontline foxhole war that we are living in. Now, I don't have to tell you much. If you've read any of my or heard any of my stories or read any of my blogs, you'll know that I've been doing this. I have been fighting the front lines for patients one-on-one for 20 years now, fighting for my patients, fighting for their rights to even receive care, fighting for the rights for care that actually helps them get better rather than just keep maintaining the symptoms. The more I fight, the more I got fought against. I might win the battle of the patient and lose the fight down the line where they say, well, you know what? You don't participate the way we like, so we're going to take the contract away from you. You don't do what I want you to do when it comes to numbers, so I'm going to fire you, and I'm not going to honor your contract that you signed for 2 years. But by the way, you know what? Not because you didn't do your job, because you didn't do what I wanted you to do. See, they've been molding us to a specific direction. And I'm not just talking about me. Every industry out there, everybody, especially the truthers, know what I'm talking about. As more and more, they're being asked to do things that just don't seem right. But if they want to keep their job, they better stick with it. These pseudo-techno-social blitzkriegs for the possessions of our souls. That's what's going on. That's the war we're dealing with. It's a blitzkrieg, a pseudo-techno-social blitzkrieg for our souls. Who am I talking about here when I talk about the truthers? The Ninos, the Charlies, the Simons, the Prymes, the Juan, a Mel, a Simon. Did I say Simon or Simon? These people that just, everybody say, well, look at, they're making all this money. They're famous. They're also risking their lives. They're going out there and they're telling things so that people, you don't have to, they don't have to tell these truths and risk their lives and deplatforms and all these other things that are going on for video views. I mean, there's a girl on the internet, she's just living in her camper and she's got 1 million views. Nobody deplatforms her for showing a bare leg and pricking a leaf. I mean, certainly many others have risked their very lives to bring us this information in a time of illumination of information. Seems prevalent. A president speaks. Oh, did I say President DJT? Well, wait a minute. Well, I guess he is a president because he was a president. He's still a president, yeah. But he speaks, having thousands show up at the mere mention of a single word that he might share. Tens of thousands. Motorcades of dozens of Secret Service personnel are going down the road. 20, 30 of these things. Uniformed officers standing at attention, saluting as his car comes by. Foreign dignitaries asking to talk to him, not the other guy. The other guy drives by in an old Chevy. His guy goes and gets out of the car and has dirty old shoes and hands him an old briefcase. He's got to carry his own briefcase. One or two soldiers stand along the side and watch, but nobody's saluting. Half the time he drives and people have got their backs to him as he drives by. Where's the fanfare for that guy? DJT, Donald Jay, you know who? The president, the real president. He comes in, it's holy mackerel. It's on. It's time to listen. You know why? Because 80% of the country is for him. What did the man say himself? You're either for me or you're against me. He did say that. Interesting thing. The man, talking about Jesus now. What's really happening here? Really? What's really happening here? All these conjured up numbers they keep talking about. Numbers of this and numbers of that, and 9/11, all these different things, the numbers of what it means, and you know, the actual, how is it possible that they could all be lined up perfectly? What is the chances of that? -48s and 107s, all the elusive letters that seems to now be a bad word, that all elusive letter. You know, that letter that is nobody can talk about. The quark, queen, quackery. You know which one I'm talking about. That quacker, quack, 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 quackery. What letter? It wasn't. If it wasn't goofier to observe, I mean, this literally, if you watch MSN, it's a 3-ring freaking circus out there. Clowns running around, animals going all different directions, trapeze going here, and people flipping there, and 3-ring circus for the old days when they actually had circuses. My wife was in the circus. Yeah, she used to ride the elephants and dance with the elephants, and dance in front of kings. And she did. Yeah. We all seen it presented performance before us almost on a daily basis. This circus act. I'm talking about now what's being presented in the mainstream media. So many issues, so many things going on, all this insanity. This being cut off, that being added, this tax here, this thing there. Let's spend trillions of dollars and give it to some, I don't know, social club in Pakistan so that it can help people with their gender identity. And people here starve. And people here can't even pay the rent. But that's okay. Let's take the money that we have and let's go ahead and support, what? I don't know, trillions of dollars so that we can defend Afghanistan? Oh, wait a minute. No, you know what? We'll dump all that money there and we'll support it. And you know what? Now we'll pull out. Now that sounds like a brilliant idea. And here, people can't pay their energy bill. I know people who can't feed themselves because they're too busy spending all their money on their medicines. I know many. I treat them. Their monthly bills for medicines are in the hundreds, just the part they pay. And they have to go without eating. Undocumented, so many of these issues, so much insanity, borders being opened, blank EOs being signed, cars parked in front of the White House. Suddenly the White House has a parking lot right in front of the windows. Undocumented children needed to be suddenly receive this. Strip club dances. So if you receive this, discounts at the shopping center. Like the shopping center suddenly cares about my health. They want me so badly to have this that they're willing to give me 20% off my groceries. Boy, they really love me down there. Yeah, until I bring back a box of stale donuts because they had a couple rotten ones in it. And then they go, no, you got a receipt? Get out of here. Well, they don't really love me that bad. I get that much, I guess. But if I get this, oh boy, sudden concern about our health. Strange, isn't it? Don't even go there, though. Let's not even go there about that. We've talked that out. The Delta thing, the Portugal thing, the Brazilian strain in my ass. Oh, sorry. I'm going to try to tone down the swearing. I'm going to leave that to the bigger guys like Nino. He's got it down. I'm going to hold it down. All I do know is they yet to isolate a single one of these things from anybody. They've already talked about the numbers being all elevated. Why? All the hospitals that were supposed to be overrun were empty. Why? All the people that were supposedly working on the front line were laid off. Why? Why? Revelations, revealings, illumination, apocalypto. Wow, what does that mean? What does all that stuff mean, though? Does anybody really have an idea? Does anybody really know? In my mind, body spiritual applications of healthcare applied to people. We look at the body, the mind, and the spiritual application of not only the injury, but its effect on us, towards us, in its attack, and how we can use the same principles to overcome the attack and clean our body up so that we can become stronger than we were before. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. There I have a little bit of experience in, as I revealed to you earlier in the video. People call me for those reasons, and you can call me if you wish. Contact me through posture.is.everything@gmail.com. And we can set up a reading. I can come read for a bunch of people. I can do a direct one-on-one consultation. We can just talk. Email me. I answer all my emails. Truths have been revealed. What are these truths when we look at them from a more ascended view? How do we do that? Is that ascension? Well, when you look at truths from an ascended view, as you walk up the mountain and look down at the truths, they don't seem so bad when they're so little from the distance down in the valley. They just look like little ants running around. Maybe they are ants. Is this ascension? What exactly is ascension? They talk about ascension all the time. Everybody's talking about ascension. Some gamma ray coming from the center of the galaxy that maybe suddenly will illuminate our dormant DNA. Is that true? I don't know. Sounds practical. What happens when we take on truths? Okay. All good things come from God. They were all spoken into the universe via sound. Sound is an energy. God spoke it into existence. If you believe in God, if you want to even remotely think that maybe some of the Bible is true, then you might as well continue this video. But if you don't, you think that's all hogwash, I would turn it off now, because the rest of it isn't going to make any sense. But let's say it's true. And he spoke it into existence with his very words. He didn't bring it into existence with a lightning bolt. He didn't bring it into existence with grass, blooming flowers. Earth was hatched like an egg out of a shell, or inside the eye of a giant named Gumbo. It's not. It was spoken into existence. Okay, not seeded, as Cameron would tell us, by some alien race. Who seeded them? You're not allowed to say that. Okay, well, I'm asking. So I believe that he spoke it into existence. So speaking that into existence allows for us to examine that energy. That energy comes into us. As we take that energy in and make it part of ourself, it adds to our energy and we ascend. That increase of vibration causes the increase of dormant DNA, which has been scientifically proven to be true. There is dormant DNA. There's dormant parts of our brain. We only use 10% of our brain. We only use a percentage of our DNA. Well, God created it. He created it for us to use it all. Yeah, he did. It has to be activated. It's activated through our experiences. We take in these truths and we make it part of us. But how do we do that? I'm getting there. We're going to get there, but you got to watch the rest of the video. Yeah, I'm not going to give the spoiler. Okay. Energy. I talk about it in my quantum book. In healing process, that's what we're really dealing with, energy. It really is. We get stimuli, hits us from outside. It has an effect on our body. That effect makes a mess. Okay, we ward off the energy. We chase it away with our beliefs and with our practical applications of God's word. We overcome the battles, and then we clean up the mess using God-given techniques. It's all in the books. I'm going to go through them again briefly. We don't have to be much of a scholar to read the book of Revelations now, do we? But what does this have to do with Donald J. Trump? Oops, did I say his word? Okay. I'm going to get deplatformed for saying his name, probably. Or what does it have to do with Revelations? What does Donald DJT have to do with Revelations? End times. Why do they keep talking about end times war? What are they talking about? That we're at war. Well, we are. We're at war for our souls. This is the real world war. We've had world wars that took up countries, even multiple countries. Many, many thousands of acres of lands were involved. Cities burned to the ground, bombed. Entire countries laid to waste. People, millions of people killed. But there was still billions of people, many, many other places that weren't affected at all. As a matter of fact, I once heard somebody say, you know, if it wasn't for the occasional bomb, that thunder out in distance, or maybe that the fact that I had a little tough time finding products on the shelf to buy an older person during the war, I might not have even known had nobody told me that we were even at war. That's true. But today, everybody in the world has been put on notice. Everybody in the world has been struggling. There is a distinct difference between the haves and the have-nots. Those in control and the rest that seem to be enslaved. There seems to be an awakening of, I had no idea this was going on in the media, in the educational system, in the government, in the family dynamic, in the food industry, in the food production industry, in the chemicals, in the pills we take, in all the drugs we take, in the very practice that we have to do, in all these different things. When did it suddenly become so dark? When did it become so evident that the people controlling the top are not interested in us, but in control. Otherwise, why would they put the negative stuff in this that dumbs us down and makes us slaves? Revelation. What does Revelations have to do with it? Well, what is Revelations? We don't have to be a scholar to read it, but to understand it, we seem to have to be. I mean, it was, why give that book to John? John the Apostle, a fisherman. Okay, so God, in his infinite wisdom, decided to take John from the island of Pathos when he was old and have him bring him and show him the future. John, so you can write it down, 2,000 years ago. Okay, but didn't explain to him what he was seeing, just showed him things. So here's John. He looks around, he sees us talking. He sees us, the things flying through the air. He sees all these things, rivers turning into blood red in diverse places, fires consuming almost entire land masses, forests being burned, all the grasses in entire cities disappearing, all happening at the same time, within the same few years. And here's a man who has known a few places. His definition of the world is everything between Mesopotamia or Jerusalem to Rome, and that little bit in between. That's his definition of the world. And yet he sees all these things, these visions of these things, and he has to write it down. And then we have to interpret it. Nobody doubts John existed. Nobody doubts that Jesus existed. Why is that? Why is that? Because of the Romans. The Romans were the greatest record keepers of all time. They wrote down everything. Everything. Roman records, meticulous. They wrote about deaths, births. They did all these. They always want to count how many people. That's the reason that Joseph had to go back to Bethlehem in the first place, because of that census or whatever they were taking. And they had to get everybody back to their home so that they could sign in. They need to count how many people were in the realm. Always wanted to know everything, know how many people, so they could tax them, so they could control them. So they wrote it all down. Deaths, births. His death, Jesus' death, is clearly documented. There's no doubt it happened. So is John's arrest and his being sentenced to Pathos. It's there. It's all in the documentation. Nobody questions it. They were the Romans were the MSM of their times. They were the librarians. They were the newscasters. They told what was going on in the world. Okay? And we understand it, what happens in the past. We understand today's life based on our understanding of our past. Okay? So we must look to our history to understand what's going on today. If we want to understand Revelation, if we really want to look at it, we need to look at the past to understand how it fits today. Prophets of old, the Jeremiah, the Ezekiels, the Daniels, the Samuels, the Elijahs, the Elishas, all spoke of things coming, a Savior that was going to come. And he was going to make it possible for us to be free of the guilt of sin and be able to come back to the Father. Okay? Freed us of this jail that the devil had put us in. The devil did. He did that. God, Jesus freed us of that. And in the time of Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, they saw things, they prophesied. Now, they were considered prophets if the things they said about the short term came true. Because if they didn't come true, they were killed. Okay? So the people that kind of took guesses at it, when it didn't come true, they weren't long before they were discredited and eliminated from the situation. And if ones that weren't eliminated, they just were ignored. But the ones that it came true, ooh, they got to be from God. So they would write down all the things that they saw, the things that had to do with Jesus coming, and the things that had to do with even the end times that we are living in today. My mentor, Peter Lau, and I've spoken of him in other films and of other writings. He spoke to me one time about how he was a scientific person. And I don't remember if he was talking about himself or how he's talking about a very good friend of him who was also scientific, an engineer, who literally used science or mathematics as proof that Jesus existed and was the Son of God. And I said, well, I'm a science person. I studied pre-med and I was always science-minded in mathematics, and share that with me. Well, it's as simple as this. There is 159 prophecies that foretold Jesus' coming and his life. The chances that one man would get 12 in a row, 12, that's like taking dice and rolling double sixes or double ones, whatever you want to call, double threes, just pick a double anything, but doing the same double sixes 12 times in a row. The chances of that happening were 1 in a higher number than the total number of people that were living on the planet Earth at the time of Jesus's birth, just 12. The chances of 25 in a row, that he got 25 out of 25 prophecies. These were prophecies that happened 1,000 years, a few hundred years before, documented, so they had to happen. The chances that one man got 25 in a row was one in a larger number than all the people that have ever been born in the earth. It was 1 in over like 13, 14 billion, just 25 in a row. The mathematics. The number for him to get all 159 prophecies right, that the numbers would match exactly 159 times in a row, was greater than the stars. It was a number that was higher than the theorized number of stars in the entire universe, not just the galaxy, the universe. When Peter or this friend of his, I don't remember which one, when they read that, immediately they believed, because they were math guys and they knew the numbers don't lie. The signs of the times display for everyone and anyone who's looking a belief or a concept, at least to believe Jesus was coming and actually was there. So they were looking for him. Where is he? He's got to be here. The signs are, the kings came looking for him. What do the signs tell us today? Revelations, earthquakes in diverse places, at exact locations, exactly 10 kilometers under the surface of the earth. That doesn't happen. They're happening now. Forests burning, entire forests burning. And it's like for no reason. Grasses. We get more fires today than we've ever had before. All the grass is being burned, the trees being partially burned. It says in the Bible. Rivers turning red as blood, it says it in the Bible. Droughts, pestilence. Extreme cold where it should be warm. Warm where it should be cold. It says in the Bible. It's in there. Plagues. Comorid. Plague. Blackouts over the whole world. Messengers popping up. Remnants speaking, being heard. People getting their voice out there, even though everything is pushing to stop them from talking about it. It's getting out. Crazy things, closed guys in the desert, dressed up, dunking people. Oh, wait a minute, that was John the Baptist. Crazy people out there talking. It's not the doctors doing the talking, the professors. We need to listen to them. The educational system gave them a diploma. They're the only ones allowed to talk. Don't listen to the Ninos. He's a boxer. What does he know? What does Nino know? He knows a lot. Trust me, guy's a freaking genius. He is. The dead arise. The blind see. The deaf suddenly start to hear. Millions dying to self all over the world. Another revelation takes place, and people see blood, rivers, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, I know what that means. And they die to their old self and are born again. Is that what it says in the Bible about people are going to die? Well, it says, John, he just saw people dying. He didn't say he saw corpses laying around. So what does he mean when he said that? He's just a fisherman 2,000 years ago who saw things and wrote it down. I saw a third of the people die. I saw great waves coming over the coast, and it knocked over a third of the ships. He was looking and he saw this happen. And to him, he saw this coastline and he saw this great tsunami, and he saw all those ships flopping over, and a third of them were destroyed. How would he know that what he saw was all the ships in the world? I don't know. To him, he was just a fisherman. He's looking at this looked like the whole world. So he wrote it down. Can we ever really return to the way it was? And people say that all the time. How can things that have been revealed, now suddenly we have to ignore them? Children being taken. That adrenochrome really exists. That it's actually in, you can look it up. It's been patented. And it's derived from blood. And that is the highest people in the industry are all practicing this cult that participates in these horrific acts that might result in the loss or abduction of our loved ones. I lost a loved one and a child that I now know was ritualistic. What does this have to do with DJT? Donald J. President? Everything. Apocalypto. Apocalypse means illumination. It's being revealed. Just like when Jesus was born, a miracle, all those things were revealed. Those miracles that had to take place were revealed. So people suddenly saw the signs and they're like, I see the sign. He's got to be here. I got to look for him. We're seeing the signs. The signs are the miracles. The revelations are the miracles. the miracles are abound. People are rising from the dead. This is the first time in history that's happening. Well, wait, what are you talking about? Well, yeah, of course. You put the paddles on and boom, they come up. I have met a half a dozen patients who died and had nothing done to them and still came back to life. It's happened so often that I know doctors that they say, yeah, I've seen it. A friend of mine who's a heart surgeon, he saw it happen. A patient of his just sat up in the table after he pronounced him dead and left him dead there for about 8 minutes while he was washing his hands. The guy finally sat up, came back to life. All these miracles are happening around us so much today that the news doesn't even report on it. Of course they don't. They don't want you to know that. They only want their message, the one that their bosses, their owners, the guys that are at the top doing all the control, they want that message out. Apocalypto, miracles. And people are out there risking their lives to bring it to you and me, these miracles, these truths. All truths come from God. All healing comes from God. All miracles come from God, AKA they're the same thing. Everyone. Those are the messages. Those are the messengers. Those are the remnant. It's time. If this is a war, if you believe that God exists, if you can possibly believe what has already been reported, that so many things have been revealed, do you think the enemy would want to let any of us know these facts if it was true? Of course, but they've been proven true. So it has to be God. The enemy's not going to let you know. Revelations, a time of revelation. And if you believe that someone like Donald J. Trump could beat Hillary when it was impossible, maybe with God's help, he did. Not only did he beat her outstandingly. They've proven that she cheated, but she thought she was cheating enough that there was no way he could overcome it. They underestimated his popularity. They underestimated the power of God. And they're doing it today. What then? In medicine, you start out with an injury. You get here and you start to, wait a minute, something's different. Maybe, did somebody just walk by? Jesus. And he tells you, you can be healed. You just look to God and he will tell you how to be healed. And you are healed. Now what? What happens when you receive the healing? When I was coming down 12 years ago and I had my own near-death experience and I decided to start putting God back into the scenario, I started asking the question, why, God, do some people heal and some don't? Right in this book, first couple chapters. And I sit there quietly. I have not because I'm asked, not because I'm asking. Why? They do. What do you mean they do? If they overcome the attack, they heal. Everybody? Everybody. Well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. Well, what about the guy that loses his leg? What about the guy that, develops cancer? What about this? What about that? What about this one? What about that one? I'm not going to go into every one of those things. It's explained. But basically, if you overcome the attack, if you don't die, you healed from that attack. Now it's up to you to decide if you're going to clean up the mess or not of the attack, and whether you believe you've been healed or not. Because if you believe, you now, because you took a baseball bat in the back of the head and suddenly now you've developed migraines that you're going to have them for the rest of your life, then you will. If you believe that the doctor tells you there's nothing I can do, pay me. Oh, come back in 3 weeks so I can tell you again that there's nothing I can do. Pay me again. And you keep going. I've got a great friend. He admitted that they tried to kill him, that they gave him experimental medicine, put him in a coma, and then laughed at him when he lived. When he said, I should come over and beat your ass, but I can't even hardly walk. Well, good thing you can't walk. You should have died. And walked out the room. Yet, knowing they tried to kill him. And you talk to him about this and about that. Hey, why don't you try this way to get better? I think I'll run it by my doctor, see what he has to say. The same doctor that killed you or tried to kill you? No, not him. I'll go to a other one in the same office, but a different guy. I'll run it by him, see what he says. Maybe hope for a bit different outcome than death this time. So I wrote an article. What about these instructions that I tell people with? I say to them, get in the fight. Fight. But how? How do I fight? I wrote an article 10 years ago, and my mentor, Peter Lau, said, you need to bring this article back to light. You need to send it to your friend David, Nino Rodriguez, because he's a fighter. This article that I wrote, he said, was inspired by God, and it will help people understand how to fight today's end times war, how to get off the couch and get into the fight. So I'm dedicating this reading of this article that I wrote to my good friend, David Rodriguez. And it's called, the name of it is the same as this article. I need a fighter, go in for me. Okay, let me get to that part where I'm reading this. 14 rounds, 14th round, and a fighter struggles to get to his feet, his tired legs shaking to lift the even more exhausted body from the chair, limped arms dangle to his sides. Long past is the point where crispiness and seemingly inexhaustible strength governs their movement. Tension and its comfortable companion, confidence, has long been replaced with whimpers of doubt. As his mind dances across the plane of prayer for maybe, with God's help, just to survive this battle instead of the victory he so confidently saw in his thoughts, dreams only moments before. Another day, the alarm goes off, lifting her head, swollen eyes from the soft pillow. Now a bit hard from yet another night of crying herself to sleep. The aches and pains of the shoulders, the neck that feels like nails have been driven down the center, greets her morning light of the intended gift of another day. She has to climb out of the warm, lonely bed to set the aching feet onto the cruel, cold floor. A tired sort of stiffness granted from the long hours of the last night's late night date. Yet another second job, tried desperately to make but a fraction of what she needs, that late night date being another job. Just to care for the bills looming on the counter in the other room. We all have those same bills. If it was only her, she might just roll back and call it quits. But for those young ones, those young lives sleeping so peacefully in their bed, her work a must, know simply of the practicality to maybe give them just a better chance. An earlier try than maybe she had, a good breakfast, a good start. She must work for their darling children before and long after carrying them off to school. Fights can last so long when you're knee deep in them, wallowing through the savage pangs of battle. The muck seems to pull at your feet, its cruel claws ever pulling you down. These long, seemingly endless stretches of endurance, nothing short of marathons at times, create an unending trek of long distance lingering before us, lengthened strides that seem unreachable. They can sometimes result in a more of a just one foot in front of the other mentality until hopefully the final circle of the stadium is realized. How grueling is this tedious step after step, blow after counter blow, punch after counter block, with its own deceptive occasional slap to the side of the head. Oh, how we try so desperately at times to wage but a good presentation, a practical sortie, hoping for that miraculous one-punch knockout. The fighter sits and ponders the fight and his life of pain between rounds. Climbing into the cold water, waking water, splashing its warm relief across her face. How sweet is this fresh, clean tingle? The fresh taste of purity as it touches thirsty lips with a strangely caring caress. Then drops wash the tears of yesterday's night's plight, yet again tear-drenched, lonely reception of those cold sheets. Her bed, ever a reminder of the betrayal that put her in this spot in the first place, not but a moment years ago. With every lie, broken date, unfulfilled promise, cold, cruel touch, she again faces the same road, ever struggling along to, this time, make it right, trying to walk on just a little bit more of a narrow path, hoping and praying, but for a miracle of relief. The trainer splashes the cold sponge across his face. With an awakening touch, the cold water slices surprisingly cold, gentle touches down his now sore, bruised, and tired chest. He shakes the cobwebs of the earlier rounds' battles from his head and the animal-like blistering attacks, and his corresponding counter ill-intended deposited follies of seemingly unbeatable attempts, built on the confidence of months, maybe years of preparation, dumbfounded, he realizes in his own senses, as the aggression and relentless attacks of this animal that stands across from him now proceeds with. Not as much as the company or even the fact he was fairly nice to look at this guy yesterday. But is it so quickly degrading expectation that seems to be laced through every eye-flirting smirk and rude innuendo the progressing evening's conversation seemed to produce, that again leaves a dirty taste in her mouth, in her morning mouth? Yet again, another offer to walk down that road she has ventured down so many times before. And as tempting it might seem once in the blue moon appear, always the final destination is certain, one of rejection, uncaring, betrayal, and flat-out depression, resulting in one more time being cast aside like some useless candy wrapper. Is this all I have to offer? Wrappings, color, dress, painted figures of Cascade, crisp and clean until torn, wrinkled, used, and then discarded. Standing across from him, a mountain of an opponent, ripples of hate-filled muscles. The only thing worse than the relentless cheap shots and blindside blows is the foul stench coming from his accursed spitting mouth as he presses his ruthless attack. Aggression and seemingly insane relentlessness is the only undetermining and unending array, if any. Our young warrior made pride to the battle waged. But grave are those dance partners when life is laid at risk and he finds himself in such a position of testing. Again, he calls within to summon up the reserves that might lay hidden below inside his now aching body, the same body which spasms with coughing eruptions, rippling stomach and shoulder muscles to the point where fear is tearing at his very organs, the congestion, the cough. A not so welcome answer to this inner plea. Just once you would think God would bring into her life a man that wanted even to get to know her for but a moment, the life she calls herself, instead of just the skin, the pound of flesh he can't seem to keep his eyes off of. How they behave like such ravished, starved wolves. If she didn't feel dirty enough about herself before, how much more after yet being again disappointed? One would think meeting a Christian, him proclaiming his persona in earlier conversations, and even within the proclamations of the church activities, would speak to someone of a heart buried within. Guess not. The water has its own refreshing, cleansing attributes as it falls down across her body. How the freshness seems to just place its own purity, his purity, the purity of God, on her tired body, pleasing to her tender, longing lips. What seemed like an opponent that should have been an easy match for him prior to this battle has proven stronger and craftier than anticipated. Only days ago sat our young warrior with strength and faith, ever diligent to train, say something like schooling up as a discipline, as breathing or eating bread or drinking even of a glass, a daily ritual of study and supplication, building onto the muscles for their inevitable release of force that was coming. Confident was he then in the hope of the inevitable win, but the blows and powers of this demon has put him more than once against the ropes. A surprise hit or two almost putting him out of the fight altogether. The canvas has a way of speaking its own siren song of invitation. Which dress shall be the lucky winner today, she says. Decisions of either meandering down the road of attractiveness, for it does give its greatest ease of deadline productivity in this world for the hypocrites who claim work ethic and performance are enough. But the constant rewards of the world's most attractive usually seem to be keep it conservative and turn away this ever disrobing eyes of her married boss as he turns yet another stack of work her way, which should really be given to the blonde that calls herself the secretary. When did our girl lose her edge of her own confidence? Was it a month ago, maybe two? Or perhaps on the fence of the divorce when the man she pledged her life's love to and her body, a body's risk for their children, was carelessly tossed to the dirt? How do you paint over years of tears with simple makeup? When battles reach a point of crescendo and a person can almost experience a sort of time standing still or slowing effect that grants our young warrior just a fraction more of a reactive awareness, making many a split-second decisions possible. So was it as the bell tones and the charge of the now sweat-drenched, dark-eyed, ravaging creature hurling its massive body in lightning speed across the floor starts charging. The demon's charge is almost successful had it not been for the momentary prayer mouthed by our young general, silently and softly, with the tender hand's subtle tone and gentle caressing in his own praying ear. Only at the slutting nudge did it say, "Turn your head just a little bit to the left." And the air rushing by, more than just a savage breeze, but almost stings with its cold, sweating, stinking touch, with the nearness, with the so near miss. Had it been a razor, clean shaven would he be? There is a refreshing feeling a morning's dew brings. Children playing in the back seat of the car, eyes lighted in the amazement, expectation, headed for the joyful glee of school. their own unencumbered embellishments dancing across the specter of scenes that blaze in the world around them. Oh, what a momentary island she softly realizes in her praise. Is this sea of troubled and lonely cold waters, how their laughs can fill her heart with such refreshing sings, cool tastes, just to be deflated by the uncaring buzz of the text now from him again. Meet you tonight. His cold, casual words leave the same sour taste in her mouth as much as the thought of the last unloving and uncaring kiss. Silently and softly, with tender hand, subtle tone, gentle caressings in her own prying ear, only the slightest nudge is felt. Tell him no. She quickly writes the text, sending before she has a chance to regret it. Good. Spinning out of the initial blow, pivoting fast and landing the counter, so glances the frustrated face of the monster his way. But just as fast as it spins to attack with blow after blow of volleyed progression, and while most are deflected with a brazen turn of our hero's own head and deflection of a counter, maybe two, maybe four, taking with them ounces of strength, not to mention power. He so desperately needs to turn this battle yet around and give some kind of reasonable performance. Wounds of old, lacerations now begin to be new, to flood his vision with stinging blood that has now appeared on the gloves and body of his nemesis. Again, his knees buckle to the blows of his lower body, for the animal somehow knows almost instinctively where to hit, where his weakness lies, doing the most damage and shaking the very foundations of his faith. The workplace is no less a haven for those from depressive grifts of enemies' talents. Not moments from entering into the building, she's bombarded with every sort of harassment, all being too subtle to speak of formally of, but nonetheless well within the surface of the waters of her awareness. Innuendos flowing from the eyes of her boss's boss give her nothing in the area of encouragement, only more of the just continued feeling of merely wanting to just give in. The worthlessness that caresses her body as their eyes and minds projections cast their spit in the face of what she knows deep down to be really good for her. Food for her soul falls with stinging blow against her body, drawing up pains buried deep within the soft, strong muscles. Her feet are already beginning to hurt in the heels she has to wear for work. Just as the symphony of blows seems to press the very spirit of him, there is a sudden lull in the action. And the now relentless attacker dances back a step or two, giving our tired warrior a chance to take in but a breath and maybe three. Could this be the answer to his silent prayers? A miraculous appearing divot in the rough, an eye in the storm, maybe a glance at a victory by some supernatural means? Surely he could receive one such sacred gift from above. Our champion cautiously ventures a foot forward and marks a plan for progression. A dream of maybe victory, deliverance, and restoration. He presses his most talented salvo, one trained many long moments in the past. The enemy may have seen it earlier, but it is the best he had, all he has. Sitting at her desk, she sees the notice sent to her at work, a bill, no, a tax levy against her wage. Not for something she had yet to pay, but for monies owed by her ex, as he neglected to file that year of their divorce. And while she had repeatedly attempted to explain her position, their inability to locate him places her in the crosshairs. You have to pay. What is she going to do now? Plus, sitting right next is the ill-placed notice, another stack of work she is expected to do for someone else. Oh, perfect, due today. A backlog of calls to return, a project overdue by now a week, and a boss insinuating a lunch in his idea of an afternoon away from the wife, and in his mind, well within his rights. Suddenly, a notice appears on her screen. An interdepartmental promotion position she applied for weeks ago has sent her an invite for an interview. Could this be an answer to her silent prayer? A miraculous appearing divot in the rough? An eye in the storm? Maybe a glance at a victory by supernatural means? Could she receive but such a sacred gift from above? She takes a step to the door, holding in her hand her best resume. And with quick glance in the mirror for approval, she pulls the door open and moves forward and gives it her best shot, all she has. Our young champion, our prince, our son of the living God steps forward and sets his hands against the opponent. He certainly presses with caution, for this animal never makes a mistake, never gives in. So this must be good. He dances left, rocks his hips in comfortable, enthusiastic vitality, and engages in a combination of his attack. He is certain will grant him victory. His blows seem to be hitting home. A staggering left, a blow with a counter right. Excitement intertwines with its bending breath through the ecstatic release of all his reserves he has. The opponent's weakened. Attempts to defend are quickly pressed with an ever greater enthusiastic press forward. Oh, could this be the answer to his prayers? Can he maybe even hope to come out of this debacle victorious? More combinations, a parley of left steps, of side steps, blows to the enemy body, a simple dance to the side, a few more combinations, and a final deliverance, all that needs to be. He's got this. He excitedly praises under his breath. Our young flower of the living Christ steps into the office of the vice president. She has always admired this man, and while he was handsomely powerful elderly man, never has his eyes been disrespecting comment against her or anyone else that she's aware of. This position could be an answer to the many nights' prayers, plenty of money to ease the burden of the debts, choking grip, maybe even an extra end of those painful late night second job woes. She immediately excitedly begins to get out the many of the projects and ideas she's had. A tactical barrage of her most talented displays, which through her years of long, hard work, accumulating many a long day of her practiced experiences, granted enough wisdom to know that would be beneficial to the company. She brandishes all the attributes this position is looking for. As she comfortably takes his seat, his attentive ear and the serious interest and look on his face gives her nothing but the most assuredness. She sees value in what she has to say. She's got this. She's excitedly praises under her breath. Suddenly and unexpectedly realized quickly with a deviant gleam that cascades from the eye of his dark opponent, the final attempt of our young warriors met with a deflecting and powerful brush of the demon's hand that now only eliminates all effectiveness of that attack. But not only that, but puts our young child in a position of a fool, for he knows he's been duped. The bare nakedness stands his jaw to the mercy of the villain that has incapable of feeling mercy. The blow lands with such devastation. His feet lift from the ground in an almost comical sight, just moments before his head slams to the cold brazen canvas. So excited, she moves to the edge of her chair just across from her hands, speaking with joyful explanation in an almost childlike performance of laughter and description, when she catches just the most subtle turn of his eye and shoulder. Like a vulture, he turns his body now to move closer than would be comfortable in any proper setting. A realization crosses her mind in a flash. Our young child has put herself in a position of a fool, and she now knows she's been duped, and barely stands her body to the mercy of the villain that is incapable of feeling mercy. The touch of his hand on her leg now is felt. With such devastating chill, she immediately stops talking in mid-sentence. How comical that have appeared. Her dreams and desires crashing to the gutter as quickly as the realization of where she actually stands in her life, yet again, a dirty rapper. The cloudiness of yet another defeat shakes its cruel grip from the blood-drenched eyes of our young child, our young fighter, as he just begins to clear the pure shock of that now knockdown, so many dreams failing, but building at the same time many more dark walls. In the fogginess of the clearing veils, he just begins to hear the word 6. Oh my God, I'm down, heart pounding. It's booming explosions in his head. He cannot lose this fight. His career would be over. Pain as he struggles to just press his hands beneath his chest in some feeble attempt to lift the tattered body yet again from the cold, cruel, sweat-drenched surface. Barely heard are his words through the fog of the shock which ignited in her head as he outlined the weekends, the hotels, the trips alone, and exactly where the job function would entail. His sweaty hand now squeezing her inner thigh in a most grotesquely demonic sting, its scorpion venom prickling painful fire in every touch. She just begins to clear that pure shock of this ultimatum, so many dreams fading and at the same time building many more dark walls. In the fogginess of the clearing veils, she begins to hear the words, "You really have no choice. You have 5 seconds to decide." Oh my God, how did I get here? Her perfect heart booming in her chest. For as she tries even to move her own hands to brush his cold, cruel hand away from her body, she cannot. For terror strikes her soul. She cannot lose this job. What about her children? 7, the boom of the word, equal if not echoing in his own bursting heartbeats, almost pressing their way out of his chest. The waves of the sound reverberate across his now blood and bruised body. He presses, but no strength can he only hoped, for so tired is he from yet another long day of looking inside. His will has been broken. Other words pang through his skull. Why, Father, have you forsaken me? Tears now blend their sweat with sweat and blood, painting a picture before his eye on the canvas laid out before him. He almost, with curious consideration, sees the laughing demonic picture erupting out of the floor before his eyes, a silhouette of crimson and red and evil. 8. Her mind is screaming at her, slap his face, do something, say no. But just as much as she just wants to force her body up and now limp and shaking, now numb and shaking legs, she can muster no strength from within to fight. She is broken once and for all. Other words pain through her skull. Why, Father, have you forsaken me? Tears now blend with mascara and shadow, painting a picture before its cruel eyes on the canvas of her cheek. The snarling smile across his dirty mouth says it all, for he knows he has her. The dirty stinking of his breath and almost casual greed he has with the realization of control. And he says with a sudden, slight spray of spit, you've got 2 seconds now to decide, yes or get out. Lord, I have failed, a woman, a boxer, both sadly within the mumble of a simple whimper of hope. I believe, now help me with my unbelief. He can only manage to lift his stunned head out of the blood. The 9 of the ref's voice hardly registers in his head as much as reverberates in the painful wave to his ears, tender skin like an unexpected hammer to the side of his skull, sending yet again a shocking pain to his young heart. When he had forgotten dreams of old, soft playings with his young son, who would he have to afford to hold and spend time with? The tender voice of the sweet boy. Oh, how he sobs for the free time he has lost. Father, help me, is all he can muster from his lungs. And then suddenly ring the bell is just as unexpected, and the feeling of carrying almost loving arms now lifting him up and helping him back to the stool. Saved by the bell, he realizes to himself in almost shocked relief. Cold, fresh water, bringing just the subtle touches of care and belief, clearing his head, opening up channels to prayers bubbling within, but never stopping in his own soft tongues, whispering their continued pleas for help, not from his own body, but from him who dwells within him. The shock still quivered through her body, still stunned that she hardly realized the words of him as he jolts her with one sudden word. Well, how easy it would be just to give up and everything she believes, tossed to the wind, the dreams of goodness, a life of purity, saving herself, this time for a man who loves her and who would love her back, that she loves and who would love her back. Loves her enough to honor her by waiting until they're married. Is she not worth it? Her sweet daughters, where do they play in this game if their mother becomes a whore? Oh, Jesus, help me. Is this all I can manage to do to pull out of her mind? And then suddenly a sound is heard. Sir, your wife is on too. The sound of the secretary washes the fog out of her mind as he angrily stares at the now limp woman before him. Wait outside for a second. He almost frustratedly says as she quietly asks herself a temporary reprieve. It almost feels like arms, hands of almost tender and loving nature pressing from within, lift her to her feet as she hurries outside the office on weakened knees and closes the door on dark recesses behind. Cool breeze and fresh air fills her lungs, bringing subtle touches of care and relief, clearing her head, opening up channels to prayers bubbling within again, but in no way interrupt her tongue's soft whispers continually pleading in her head, not for her own strength, but for something that is from him. A Father in heaven says, a whip on your back on earth is same as a medal of honor in heaven. Through clear minds, through thoughts clear, minds become open. They breathe a deep breath of heart's relief, scented love. Life's water of a giving God. They know deep down all sin of the past forgiven, pure, sanctified by the one who dwells within. Their shoulders lift. They both look up and see the snarling animal glancing back in its own false confidence. A realization comes in loud and clear. You're not going in. You're not going back in. I am. If you but ask. Tears of joy erupt in swollen eyes. Silent tongues of prayer spill out into a verbal praise. Lord Jesus, you go in the ring for me. A man, a woman say. As his head lifts slowly in strength and power, as she straightens her back and wipes the tears from her face. Jesus, my prince, you go in the ring for me. Power flows through limbs. Confidence crosses the faces of our two champions. Exhortations of praise flow through the now strengthening legs. Almost as fast, realization and fear crosses the eyes of the enemies now staring back at them in increasing confusion and fright. Jesus, Son of David, you go in the ring for me. Muscles now begin to tighten and ripple with blood of the living God that flows through every joint, every muscle, lifting, radiating in a blaze of light from the eyes like the blast of 100 suns. Terror has replaced concern in the eyes of those now weakening opponents. Jesus, Lion of Judah, you go in the ring for me. They say now out loud in such a commanding voice that it's clear to all that are around exactly what they are saying and to whom they are speaking. Thunder voices of the word, a bell, and a new fighter, a champion, a general lunges out of his chair with such a blast. So much strength and aggression. The fear-stricken enemy quietly looks behind for a place to escape. no longer even remotely thinking of fighting. A laying down of the phone, a new woman, a champion, a general looks back through the glass with such power in her posture and confidence in her eyes. The pathetic old fierce-pricked man melts into his chair in fright. With a smile, our man steps comfortably to his feet. And with a smile, she turns from the glass, and they both walk down the path to overcoming victory. Now substitute your name into those that I've just read. What are we to do in this new revelation war we find ourselves in? We are to heal. We are to see the truths. We are to then share the truths. We are to share this video, share Nino's, share Charlie's, share what you have with them, share what you have with your neighbor, share the good word, share the truths. It's all the same. It's all energy. People give their all when they sign up for the end times war in the front line because it's life or death. I give you everything I've got in our own ways. That's what it means to fight in the end times war. We are all one body. Some people are meant to come out and lay hands on others and help them with healings. They're not the healer. They're conduits for healing. God's the healer. They're called healers, but they're not healers. They're conduits of a healer any more than a fireman puts out fires. The water puts out the fire. The fireman just points the hose. Okay? He's a fireman. He's not a fire putter outer man. Okay, the water puts it out. We're all given in our own way as part of the body. We've been given things. Some people are meant to put their hands on. Some people are messengers, meaning they either bring the message or they go and they bring people to the message. They share. When you share, you become a messenger. Jesus told all his followers, go and share the truths. I have one instruction for you. Go share the truths. And that was it. Just tell them what you've seen. And then let them decide if they take it in or not. If they take it in, then they will go share. Okay? If they don't, then leave. Shake your dust off your feet. We're all healers. If you've been healed, and every one of you that has survived an attack has been healed, then you are a healer. Now you have to share. Go and share that experience. Go and share what you've learned. Go and share a video. Or go and become part of that body. If you can't be the kind of person who can put hands on people, if you can't be the kind of person who can share, then be a kind of person who supports, be the backbone. You know, people need support. If you've been blessed with a lot of money, then help guys like Nino, like Charlie, so that they can bring that message. Okay? Because tell you, I'm working in this field 35 years, and the more I bring the message, the less I make. You know, you can help me by support. If you know somebody who's a publisher, I need a publisher. I've been self-publishing. I gave these books away for the first year until Nino came along, never sold a dang book. Need help. So if you've been blessed in that way, you can become a Joseph of Arimathea. He blessed the message with his support. He's the one who bought the tomb for Christ. He's the one who paid to have him taken down. He's the one who he did so much. And he's part of that body, that message because of it. He's a warrior. Be a warrior. Jesus said, you can have this all. Everything I've done, everything I did, you can do because I'm with my Father in heaven. Do it. Heal people. Walk on water. Rise above these storms and see them what they really are. Just energy. Get off your couch and do it. Get off your couch. Quit just watching one more news announcement, one more feel-good message, and then going back to sleep. Get in the war. Get out of the R&R and get your butt in the war. Lord Jesus, go in the ring for me because I need help. And when I ask God to go in the ring for me, he does. And he will for you. I hope you were blessed by this video. I hope that you will like and support our channel. Maybe become subscribers. That would be nice. Share. If you've got social medias, if you've got these links, these Telegram channels, share the video on them. I would love to, the more it's shared, the more the message gets out to more people. You become a messenger. If you want to purchase a copy of our book, they're available on Amazon.com. We also have a GoFundMe. It's listed below. You can check that out. That lends support so that we can keep helping people. We have people call me. I do see patients. I do schedule. If you want to have a one-on-one session, you can call me. We can schedule it. I have to charge for that. I have to work. That's my day of work, and I do it for a living. If you want to set up a group, and I do a group call, I can do that. And if you want to set up a local event where I come and speak to a bunch of people, I would gladly do that. Local meaning in the Phoenix area. If you want to do it outside, we'd have to talk. Quantum Ascension, how the stuff works on a quantum level, both available on Amazon. Pick a copy up, and if you want a signed copy from me, just email me at posture.is.everything@gmail.com, and you can find, I'll instruct you how to pay for it, and then I'll send you a copy just for the shipping cost plus the book, and you get a signed copy. Blessed. I'll write something specific for you. I hope this helped you. I hope to hear from you. Email me, send me comments. I answer all my emails, when I can. And bless you. And I hope to hear from you. And let's get them. We're at war. We already know who's won. It's written out in the Bible. It's clear as Jesus coming. And one other thing, if darkness could really kill us, if darkness could make a pandemic and kill off people, he would have done it long ago. If he could really kill us, he would have killed us all long before Jesus was ever born. He would have wiped out the entire population of the world. He can't. Okay? So don't be afraid. Fear not. We have more power than you think. Take care. Bless you.